Welcome into the I-80 Boys College Football Show. As always, I'm your co-host, Old C. Hunt, and that old douche Knazzle over there.
That would be Chris, still the pro Auburn hater. Yeah, you could put / Florida behind that too as well. Christian, how the hell are you doing though, big guy? I like the hat, by the way. I like the hat.
Man, thank you so much. My wife got it for me at the old College World Series here, man. I appreciate that, man.
I like that.
I have been up to too much. What's been up with you, Chris?
Not much, man. Living the dream. Again, I keep saying it every freaking week, man. I can't wait for the college football season to begin. I think I speak for a bunch of us here. But no, I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get into it tonight. What we got for a little pregame warm-up, Christian? What we doing here? What we digging into?
Oh, man, we kind of kick it into chat here a little bit. We got somebody putting 5 car payments down that Georgia wouldn't three-peat.
Woo!
That's ballsy there, man.
Man, it is a little ballsy. I will say that, Children of the Corn. Unlike Christian, I actually think Georgia's got a pretty good chance. They're going to make the playoff this year. Let me know how you feel when that time comes and they're in that playoff and you got that grand on the line. But no, I do. I actually think Georgia's got a good chance. I can't believe I'm saying that. I think there's been like one other team to ever freaking three-peat, and that was like Yale back in the 40s. So odds, yeah, probably not. But, man, I actually think Georgia with the schedule this year and Georgia's not a bad football team. They're really not. They got a hell of a head coach there. I know I'm stroking Christian's ego over here with all that Georgia shit in the background. But, no, Christian, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, man. What do you think there, big guy?
Either Georgia, I would say the seal or the floor for Georgia this year is probably 3 losses. We've talked about that. That's the worst case scenario for Georgia. I think, again, the most logical thing that I can think of, they got a quarterback, man. They got a quarterback back there in Carson Beck. I mean, he's gonna light some teams up this year. The defense is gonna still be elite. It's Kirby. We've got running backs. We always have running backs. Is it the most talented group of running backs we've ever had? Absolutely not. Still have got plenty of really good wide receivers. They got Brock Bowers, the tight end, coming back. That guy's going to be a really high draft pick next year. They got Lad McConkey. You know what I mean? A little Wes Welker 2.0 out there, right? They've got, they got a couple of all SEC transfers from Missouri and somewhere else. Oh, Mississippi State. They got some of their best wide receivers to come back to the team. So what else do you want, man?
Well, I will say this, dude. You talked about Brock Bowers. He might be the best player in college football this year. Regardless of position, you know what I mean? He's not going to be in the Heisman category, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that guy's a freaking stud. I will say this, though, about your boy at QB. He's not as athletic as Stetson Bennett, but he throws the ball a lot better. That's where I think you guys are actually pretty dangerous. And all he's got to go out there this year is not lose the game type of mentality. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to be a world beater. He doesn't have to carry Georgia this year. That's why Georgia scares me a little bit. Like, as far as like, I think they're going to be there. I truly think they're going to be in the playoff. Do they win it? I don't know. I'm not going to say that yet. But I mean, damn, I think they have a really good chance with the schedule. And Kirby Smart, who I am a big fan of. I hate saying that in front of you, Christian. I really do. But your guys' defense is so fucking good every year, man. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Georgia's going to be there at the end of the year. They're going to be there. As much as I don't want them to be, they're going to be there.
Yeah. Sort of the Corn says Nebraska has a quarterback and all that. Why can't we win 10 games? Really simple. really simple. It's called years and years and years of getting a top 3 recruiting class.
Exactly.
Having a defensive coach who literally can make it to practice, do all the right things right, and is he has a helicopter to go recruit kids, and he doesn't have to go very far, right? So there's a lot of things at play there. And, I mean, when he took over that program, I mean, that's the thing too, right? It's the same. To me, I look at, where Nebraska's been at as a program, and I could be wrong, Chris, here, but I don't think I am, over the last decade or so, it wasn't too far off from where Georgia was at, right? Georgia was a 7, 8, 9 win team every year. could always make it to an SEC championship, but they just couldn't get past that. They just couldn't figure out a way to be elite and be killers, but that was Nebraska was at for a while.
Yeah, Nebraska was there, but they got rid of Bo Pelini. That's where he had taken us, right? People got tired of that. And I was one of those people too. Like, he just can't win a big game against, anybody in the Big Ten title or anybody even when he was in the Big 12 or we were in the Big 12. Problem is we made a shitty hire at coach. Couldn't recruit, couldn't do anything. Then we went through another guy. And we went through another guy, which ended up being Scott Frost. And we all know you said we could have had a fucking, preschooler coach back there, would have done a better job last year and last 3-4 years with Scott. And I agree with that. That's why we're not there, Children of the Corn. Coaching, recruiting. What's the biggest part of a coach's job, Christian?
The coach.
Yeah. What's his biggest job? What's his biggest thing when you're a coach? Probably
I would say it's to get talent to keep them there. But
recruiting.
Yeah, recruiting.
Absolutely. And that's where we've fallen off the map. We don't have depth. We're not deep at a lot of positions at all. I mean, the offensive, defensive line, hell, they haven't been any good the last few years. We don't even have starters that really been that great as far as a core. So that's not to touch on Nebraska here a lot, but yeah, that's a lot of the reason why we have suffered. And, now we got, Matt Rule, and I think we're all praying that he's going to be the man. And I'm really happy with him, what he's done. But until he proves it on the field this year, and we'll, like I said, we'll probably talk about Nebraska plenty this offseason still, but they got a long ways to go yet, man. And like I said, we're talking about Georgia here. That's why Georgia's much more superior than Nebraska, and the national titles show for it.
Well, Chris, are you ready to kind of come the pregame warm up here? We're a little late on this, but I figure better late than never, right? So,
hell yeah.
Michigan running back Donovan Edwards played through an injury last year. Chris, what are you thinking about that there?
Well, I know he broke his hand, I think, against us, actually, if I'm not mistaken. That was the first thing. And then he had a knee injury, I think, like week 2, also against, I don't know if it was Hawaii, I think maybe. So he was battling a couple different injuries last year. Everybody forgets, nobody forgets about Blake Corum. I mean, that guy, I don't know how many yards he rushed for last year before he got hurt there. And then Donovan Edwards comes in. Here's my thing. College football is starting to implement what the NFL does, and vice versa. Obviously, we talk about a lot on this show, Christian. You got to have 2 running backs anymore nowadays. You know what I mean? I mean, you just do. It's at every level. Donovan Edwards, if he was playing anywhere else, dude, probably be in Heisman talk. I mean, he really, truly would. But he plays with Blake Corum. Corum's a starter. But Donovan Edwards, there's not much of a drop-off between this guy and Corum, dude. There really isn't. If you guys watch this kid play, he's a freaking stud. I think he had over 1,000 yards last year, and I think he had like 9 or 10 touchdowns. I mean, he had a huge year playing behind Blake Corum, who was running back of the year. So, that's amazing. I think these two are probably 2 of the top 5 backs actually in college football, and they just happen to be on the same team. So this injury, playing through it last year, Corum got hurt. He comes back. He still has, I won't talk about that playoff game against TCU, but that wasn't Donovan Edwards' fault. I could place the blame on that quarterback for throwing 3 interceptions in that game, but I'd like to hear your thoughts though, Christian. What do you think, man? What are you thinking, man?
Yeah, I think you summed it up beautifully there, Chris. The big thing was, look, he had over 1,000 yards. I think he had like you said, 7 to 10 touchdowns last year, if I'm not mistaken. But to me, he's going to be a junior this year, right? And he's going to continue splitting reps with Blake Corum this year. Chris, I know you're really high on Blake Corum.
I am.
But any chance Edwards outrushes him this year, even if they stay both healthy?
I don't think so, unless Corum maybe gets hurt again or something like that. Like, barring no injuries, though, Christian, I'm assuming that's what you're asking. I don't think so. Corum is really good in between the tackles. And we know Michigan, right? Big, monster offensive line. Size-wise, they're always in the top 5 as far as just size of offensive linemen. They put a lot in the NFL. I think they pound the ball a lot with him. McCarthy, all he's got to do this year is not lose the game as far as don't turn it over. He doesn't have to be he doesn't have to be a hero back there at QB. I think Edwards is going to get a lot of attention, especially down on 3rd down. The kid can catch the ball in the backfield. That's an NFL trait. You got to be able to do that in the NFL. That's why I like him a lot. He might be a better NFL back, though. That I will say that. I might surprise some people with that, but I'm a big Blake Corum fan too as well. So, no, I don't think he does. I think it's probably Corum's backfield, but they're going to play these guys a ton. And Christian, like I said, man, you got two great running backs, at least two of the top 10 or if not top 5 running backs in the country on the same team. You're going to use them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Chris, I think the thing is at this level is it's so tough, especially at the running back position, to stay healthy. I mean, I think that might be a reason why that coupled with the fact that, I mean, we've talked about this before. Kids are, I think, really ingrained at a very early level. They start playing peewee football, moving up. So they play a ton of football. They're really, really skilled, but they have a ton of injuries now.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Right? I mean, don't get me wrong. There was always injuries before, but just a lot of injuries start to kind of pile up. And I think that's why we've seen, even in the NFL, right, the running back position at one point was probably one of the most coveted positions on the whole field. Now we've kind of switched over to the era of the quarterback, right? And I mean, I think this year was the first time in a while we've seen a running back get drafted in like the top 10, right? Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things. I think it's really important, but I think that obviously Michigan's offense, and you are right, they are going to try to run the ball. But I want to see if Michigan's going to do anything this year. They're going to have to take steps forward with old JJ McCarthy this year if they really want to compete.
Well, that and they got to find a wide receiver. I think that's why Michigan is not, probably, I hate to say this, hasn't won a national title. I know they've beaten the shit out of Ohio State, and that makes me very happy. But the difference between Michigan, if Michigan, here, I'll put it this way: if Michigan had one of Ohio State's fucking receivers, I would probably put Michigan preseason number 1. You know what I mean? They don't have a guy that can go out there and get it downfield. Now, I'm not saying that the receiver core is bad, but they don't have a Marvin Harrison Jr. You know what I mean? They don't have an Addison last year at USC. They've never really had a guy in a long time there that can stretch the field, make those crazy catches like a George Pickens. You remember him, don't you, Christian?
Certainly do.
Fucking stud. I'm big on him in the NFL this year, by the way. Yeah, you know what I mean, though? That's where Michigan's was kind of a question mark. Like, do they have a big-time receiver that can get downfield, create space, go up and grab those physical catches, high point the ball? They haven't had a guy like that. I mean, I'm not saying that David Bell was trash, but, I mean, they just don't – you know what I mean? And I think that's kind of the difference with Michigan this year. If they can get some sort of passing game when they do have to throw the ball against some of the better teams example, Penn State, Ohio State, in those games where you don't have to rely so much on a Blake Corum and a Donovan Edwards.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, again, this is he's already had surgery. I think he's already up and moving around, should be good to go by the time the season starts. So it's going to be interesting to kind of keep an eye on Donovan Edwards this year. To me, I think they're the best running back room in America. I don't even think it's really all that close either.
I agree. 100% agree.
All right, so let's kind of move right into the next thing here. I thought this might be why we were getting a little bit of Georgia talk here. Dylan Raiola, Mr. Dylan Raiola transfers to Buford High School in the state of Georgia. Chris, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, guys, we know this much. I mean, here's the deal. I am going to have to take back. I'm very big on Dylan Raiola. We all know that his dad, played here and all this shit. He's going to Georgia now. I mean, this is I think I had to kind of change my mind on it. This was kind of the icing on the cake type of thing. I did want this kid a lot. I still do. But it is what it is, right? I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. The big thing with him, though, Christian, which is crazy, is like, I didn't know this. I'd heard about it, but I didn't know if it was actually true. I think the main reason for him leaving is because he wants to play a full season of football. And what I mean by that, he's been down in Arizona. I believe he transferred schools down there, and there's like a law or some sort of penalty that he had where he had to sit out like a 5-game suspension. They're trying to appeal that. Long story short, I think he said, screw it. I'm going to Georgia to play, my senior year and play a full year. Also, Christian, I think you would agree with me. It's right next to Athens, where Buford's at. It's close. And then I think the big kicker, too, I didn't realize this today until I did some research as well, which makes sense if I were him and in his shoes, Christian. There's a couple players on that team in Buford that are Georgia's looking at, and they're just happen to be wide receivers. Imagine that. Makes a lot of sense to me. I'm sad to say it, but, man, he's going to probably be a Bulldog, bro, and not a Husker.
Yeah, I'll kind of take a little different stance on it. I think he ends up at Georgia. right? I've said that, and remember we talked about this when
You
he
did.
originally committed.
You did.
It's gonna depend on one of the things I look for: how active is a kid in the recruiting process once they sign? Are they actively trying to recruit? And that's only one part of it, right? Here's some other things, though, right? I mean, Buford High School, they've got 4 5-star players on their roster, right? So they're a powerhouse program in the state of Georgia. I think they are the best school, if I'm not mistaken, in the state of Georgia as far as football is concerned. But look, man, I think Raiola, he's been to 4 high schools.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been to 4 different high schools. You're absolutely right. He got suspended for 5 games because, like you said, in Arizona, that you can only transfer, I think, so many times, or there was some kind of weird thing. It wasn't anything like that. It's just he transferred so much they were going to suspend him for 5 games, and he didn't want to do that. Right. So to get around that, he's going down to Georgia, going to get comfortable, going to start trying to recruit other people down there, get used to the area, and I get it. But here's what I think, Chris. I think he'll make it to Georgia, but I don't think he's going to be there 3 years from now. I've said that. If I'm betting my money based off how many times he's transferred in high school, I got a feeling he's a restless soul, man. That's what I think. I think he'll get there. Within 2 years of him stepping foot on campus, I think he'll end up transferring out. Could even be at Nebraska, right? Might end up working out for you guys in the end.
To interject on that, that's what I thought until I saw this today. I was telling a lot of people, like, hey, I actually think that he's committing to Georgia just to he's got so much fucking hype behind him, right? I mean, everybody's been talking about this kid since he was like an 8th grader. I mean, I've heard a lot over here in Nebraska all the freaking time about this kid. And I'm not saying he's not good. He's a stud, but we've seen people bust before too. So I will put that out there. It's great. I wanted him badly. We've needed a really good quarterback, a high recruit for, God, it's been freaking forever. But long story short, I thought, hey, you know what? He's just committing to Georgia. Say it. They're number 1 team in the nation. They've won 2 titles in a row, blah, 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 blah. And maybe he'll commit to us after he sees what Nebraska does and Matt Rule does this year if we do have a really good year this year, right? That's what I was thinking. I actually don't know if he transfers. You're right, though. He does have a history of bouncing all over the place and he's kind of like that girl that you never really get to say that you're dating, but you're not officially going out. You know what I mean? She's bouncing around from dude to dude, your best friend, your other guy's best friend and his best friend, that's
you're
dating
what her.
What's
you're dating
that?
her, but so I said you're dating her, but so are like 3 other guys.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, she's like the town bicycle. Everybody's getting a ride. So that's kind of how I feel about that right now. But after I saw this today, it's just like, damn, man. And I will say this, though. I will throw this out there. Another reason I kind of was thinking about this as you were talking was he might have went there. Christian, think about it. Arizona's high school football is not what Georgia's is. You know what I mean? Better competition is going to be played over there. That might have been a little bit of it too, I think. Spencer Rattler came from Arizona. I believe he holds like every goddamn passing record down there in high school for football. That was one of his kind of knocks that he didn't play. I remember watching that series on Netflix with him. He was on there with a couple other, I think Sam Howell and a couple other guys when they were in high school. But my big thing is like, yeah, I get it from a standpoint. He is in Georgia's backyard now. He doesn't have to go very far. I hope you're right. I hope he does end up transferring out of there. We don't know that. We're just hypothetically speaking here, but I'll leave it at that on my take.
It reminds me of another guy who just, by the way, his name's Big Bear Alexander, former 5-star defensive tackle. He also attended, I think, 2 to 3 different high schools, and while he was in school. And Georgia fans will know how that ended up for us. Now he's at USC, and so that obviously didn't work out for us. Again, there's kids that attend different high schools and end up staying with one place. I think it's not all that common, but nevertheless. Interestingly enough, and I'll kind of keep it parked here, this is something else that came out of the Elite 11 over the past week, and that was they were talking about Georgia has, by the way, 2 quarterback commits inside of the top 10. This is not a brag or anything like that. It's just interesting because at the Elite 11, they had an inside scout there that said, Raiola has the arm talent, but he didn't do the little things like 100%. Those little things like making the check, remembering all the stuff. He has the arm talent. I think he led 4 consecutive touchdown drives, all that stuff. But it was those little things they talk about, those little leadership intangibles.
Absolutely.
Ryan Puglisi, who's the other quarterback committed to Georgia, he doesn't have the same arm talent that Raiola has, but he did all the little things. I mean, both of them are top 10 quarterbacks. And to me, that almost sounds like Stetson Bennett 2.0, just probably a little higher on the recruiting trail there. So,
right.
It'll be interesting to see kind of how all that shakes out, I think, for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, time's going to tell with this kid. He's always like the hottest topic on the internet. You know what I mean? In the sports world of college football, seems like we've been hearing about this kid for like 3 years. You know what I mean? Especially over here in Nebraska too. You know what I mean? So I wish him the best, dude. I do. I like I said, he has a history of bouncing around, and maybe that's what he does. I don't blame him for going to the number one, college football program right now. Though Georgia is, we know that. I get it, man. The NIL money going to be pretty nice, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, 100%. All right, Chris. So let's jump into a little bit of some Utah Utes football. What are your thoughts on them?
Here's the thing. I love Utah. I do. And guys, everybody that knows, that watches the fucking podcast knows that I bag on the Pac-12 on a daily. Utah's not one of those teams I bag on, though. Reason why, because they kind of remind me of an SEC/Big Ten school. They play a little defense over there. They like to run the football. I think Kyle Whittingham is a very underrated coach, Christian. I truly do. In the landscape of college football, they're coming off what? I mean, if they win it this year, they would three-peat it over there, which would be crazy. I don't think that's going to happen this year, unfortunately, with just the strength of schedule over there in the Pac-12. But last year, hey, they went 10-4. I believe they were 7-2 in conference. They were 11th in points per game. 38.6 points per game, Christian. Let's put some work in. You know that. Opponents were averaging 21.4, and that's where I talked about the defense guys. That's awesome. And that's why I love Utah. They play defense. They truly do, especially in that conference where offenses run rampant over there in the Pac-12 with Washington and Oregon and USC and Oregon State and all those guys. So the big thing why do I think they could three-peat this year? I know that wasn't the question here, but that's everybody's talking about. Utah's won this back-to-back years over there, Christian. Can they three-peat? I don't think so, even though they're bringing back, 14 starters? I think the biggest question mark for Utah this year, and where I could see them winning 10, 11 games, if it does happen, I think their floor is probably 8, and I'll put that out there. Cam Rising. Love this kid to death, man. But if he stays healthy, I believe this has got to be his, 6th year, Christian, if I'm not mistaken. He's been there forever, right? If I'm not mistaken, he's ready to go week 1 against Florida, which can't fucking wait, Florida fans. I'll touch on that later. I actually think Utah's going to be great this year. They just schedule's pretty tough. We'll dive into that a little bit more here at the end. Christian, want to hear your thoughts on Utah. I kind of rattled off some stats there. I'm sure you're surprised by that because, I don't bring any stats to the table. It's always you.
Excited, man. Turn into a stat war over there. Man, listen, I want you to know right now, you see all this Georgia stuff. You see the Nebraska hat back there. I'm buying some Utah shit for that game against Florida.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
I'm going to turn into
100%.
the biggest week 1 college football. I'm going to turn into the biggest Utah fan out there.
Absolutely.
We're getting after it. So, listen, I think this is, and you touched on it perfectly. Kyle Whittingham, the coach, entering year number 19 at the helm for him. And he's coming off 2 10-4 seasons. Not bad at all.
No.
2 Rose Bowl losses back to back. 2 Pac-12 championships too. So not too bad. They beat a very dangerous USC team last year twice.
Love it.
Just to do that once, that's pretty good. But they did it twice, and I like it. You touched on it. Cam Rising coming off 3,532 touchdown season last year. They also bring back 2 really talented running backs in Jaquindon Jackson and Micah Bernard. They combined for 1,400 yards last year and 14 touchdowns. Like you said, they run the ball. There's really not a whole lot of stuff they don't do well as a team, and that's a staple of a Kyle Whittingham team, man. I think, to me, it's getting a little interesting because they do lose Dalton Kincaid, who I think is going to be a fantastic. He was their leading receiver last year.
Was he not the first tight end taken off the board too in the draft, if I'm not mistaken?
He was, yeah.
Yeah, he's a stud. Yeah.
I think, I mean, that's going to hurt, but they've got some other guys, man. I mean, they bring back, Devon Vale, and they also have Money Parks, who they combined for 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. They also have 2 really good tight ends that are going to step up and replace some of that, right? In Brant Kuthi, I think I'm saying that right, Brant Kuth. You get what I'm saying. I know I've heard this kid's name before, though. And Thomas Yasmin, who both of them combined for 500 yards and get this 9 touchdowns last year, dude. That's pretty good.
That's a lot of good. That's good production there.
Yeah, for your second string tight ends.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're going to be more than okay on the offensive side of the ball this year, provided everybody stays healthy. But the good thing is they got depth, man. They've lost a lot, but they also bring back a lot of depth, and they do a really good job on both sides of the ball at being able to rotate guys in and out. That's one thing, and we've talked about it consistently at this level. You got to be able to rotate guys, get them some playing time, so that way when you have a lot of these guys depart, it's really easy for you to kind of next man slot up, and then you just keep rotating. You touched on it a little bit. Utah finished 27th in total defense last year, which I think is fantastic. Especially for a Pac-12 school. I mean, we're a little biased sometimes. We'll be the first to admit that, but I think 27th for a Pac-12 team total defense with those offenses you got to go against. That's pretty fucking good. They only gave up more than 30 points 3 times last year, dude. 3 times.
That's pretty good.
That's insane. To me, where I think they're going to be really good at this year, Chris, is on the defensive side of the ball. They bring back multiple players who contributed for them on all 3 levels. I'm just kind of give you the top 3 guys that I think are going to make the best contributions for them, and we'll kind of get into it. So defensive end, Van Fillinger, he had 5 sacks last year. He's coming back. Linebacker Kareem Reed had 5 sacks to go alongside of 72 tackles, 3 pass deflections, and 1 interception. And then the secondary is going to be led by safety Cole Bishop, who had 83 tackles, and that was actually led the team last year for him.
Nice.
Again, they have to find a way to replace guys like Clark Phillips and certain people like that, but they rotate those corners in left and right. The secondary's been rotating and playing. They've got their deep, a lot of that front sevens coming back, and they played some good snaps. I mean, this is going to be a team, in my opinion, this year, Chris, that's going to have a really, really good shot to do some stuff here.
Yeah, no, I think, like I said, man, I'm pretty high on them this year. Just with Washington, Oregon, and USC this year, it's tough to three-peat in anything. You know what I mean? As far as trying to win that Pac-12 crown. But I will say this, though. The only question I really have for Utah, other than I did say Cam Rising, if he can stay healthy, I think their offense is going to be tremendous. Kyle Whittingham, dude, he's an old school coach, loves to run the football, throw the ball at tight ends, off the play action type of game. The big thing with me, though, they did lose quite a bit off that secondary last year, and I think that's going to be a little bit tough this year if they can fill in those pieces, which I do think they will. That's kind of my other question on the other side of the ball. But special teams also, I believe, I'm going to bring this up. I don't bring up special teams, but it's a huge component. Ask us Nebraska fans about that a couple years ago. They do bring in a kicker from Colorado who's pretty goddamn good. So that they were atrocious last year. That actually kind of cost them a couple games, if anybody remembers. So I'm pretty pumped, though, about Utah in where they're going, dude. I think they're going to be right in there. They're going to be a tough out. And I said it. Week 1. You guys are going down from Florida. You guys are already on my shit list already. I'll put some money down on Utah. Easy. I'll take the points too.
Yeah, dude, you're absolutely right. So with that being said, Chris, let's transition into their record prediction. I mean, where do you got the Utes at this year, man? What do you think they're going to be doing?
Win-wise, let's break this down a little bit here, Christian. I think it's a win against Florida, right? I'll break it down real quick, just off the rip here. Baylor, we did do a show on Baylor. I think Baylor's going to be good this year. I don't think they beat Utah though. I think Utah's got too much for them. Weber State, UCLA. UCLA is kind of one of these teams. People are either you're high on UCLA this year or you're not. There's a big one right there in Oregon State though. I got educated a little bit by a lot of people a couple weeks ago about how good Oregon State's supposed to be. Apparently, some mouth breathers think that they're winning a national title this year. I'm not going that far, but I do think Oregon State's going to be tough. I still like Utah. I still think Utah's the better team. They got the better coach. Cal, there's your big game, USC and Oregon, right, Christian? That's, I've been working on my preseason rankings here. We'll come out with those in like another month here or so, or maybe even a couple weeks here. I'm not sure, Christian, but I got USC and Oregon. I think they beat them this year. I do, and it pains me to say that, especially about USC. But I think it comes down to just USC's got to do something one of these days with Lincoln Riley. Like they had a great year last year, Christian. You know that. It's at SC. I think that's tough. Utah's a hell of a lot better at home than they are on the road. We know that. So I'm gonna pencil in a loss. I got a loss to Oregon and Bo Nix and those guys. Arizona State. The Washington game is interesting to me, but this is where I like Penix a lot, man. I do this year. Washington had a really great season last year, so I have 3 losses there. I got them finishing out the year, and you goddamn right, they're beating Colorado that last week. That's not a question, but I have a 9-3 is what I have wrote down, Christian. I could see them getting to 10-2, 8-4 at worst, and that might be an Oregon State loss, something like that. They're not losing to Florida. Let's just get that out there. That's where I'm at, Christian. I'm actually, when I knew that we were talking about Utah this week, I was very interested to see what you have to say about these guys and see if you actually know college football or not.
Man, we're not too far apart there. I'm not going to come out and say like 5-7 or some crazy shit. Listen, I think this is what I'm going to say. I think I got them at 11-1. 11-1 in the regular season. Reason why I'm saying that is I think they'll either lose to USC or Washington. They've had USC's number for years past.
Okay.
Last year. I really think they can beat them again this year, but I think somewhere along the way, it might be Washington, maybe Oregon, right? But here's the thing, man. Yes, Oregon did beat them last year. They get a lot of firepower back this year, right? Utah does. And I have a feeling if they can figure out a way to put up at least 30 on them this year, they should be all right. Oregon only beat them 20-17 last year, so it was a pretty close game. But obviously, this isn't last year. I get it, right? I mean, I could have gone. I really, in my heart, wanted to go 10-2 season, but where the fuck is the fun in that? You know what I mean? Where is the fun in saying you're going to go for the 3rd year in a row, 10 wins?
It's about time you grab that little Smoky of yours if you can find it and put your money where your mouth is. Finally. No, I like it. I'm not saying Utah's a very interesting team this year. They're a team I think could finish in the top 6 or 7 this year. They're also a team that maybe finishes outside the top 20, just depending how it goes. And I think a lot of that, in my opinion, not to cut you off, Christian, but like if he's healthy, which, God, he's been up and down in his career. He is a 6-year fucking senior, though. Guy's been around forever. He's a veteran. We like guys like that, especially at the helm. I'm with you, man. I'm just so stuck on the Oregon, USC, Washington phase this year because they're all bringing back their quarterbacks. That's where it's like, damn, and I know those offenses are probably as good, if not better. But again, you mentioned it perfectly. Their fucking defense is awesome. Utah has had the best defense in the Pac-12 the last 2 or 3 years, in my opinion. So if they can keep that up and fill those holes, especially in the secondary, shit, I'll put them. I would agree with you. I would put them up in a 10 or maybe, God, man, maybe even 11 in one season. That would be amazing for Utah. I actually hope it happens. I like Utah by far the best out of the Pac-12 schools. That's just my opinion and personally, but very good take though, Christian. I mean, I like how you put your money where your mouth is on that one, dude. 11-1, he says.
11-1, man. You gotta respect it. Like I said, dude, every time you get down on Utah, they always shock you. All right, so let's take a look here, Chris. We're going to kind of jump into your favorite segment and my favorite segment. Let's go here. Hold on one second.
Let's go.
All right, Chris. Let's let you read it off here.
Hot take: Florida State will be better than Bama this year. You goddamn right they will be. I have been a Florida State truther since the the end of last season, man, you're bringing back Jordan Travis. They're bringing back a ton of talent here. I'm either going to like flop on this goddamn thing a ton, or I'm going to look like a genius. Cause like there's really no in between on this, guys. There's not. I was higher on Bama. If we look back in previous podcasts with me, but the more and more I read, the more and more I see, I've watched their spring game twice now. It was a dumpster fire. I'm not trying to piss off Bama people, but they ain't got a fucking quarterback. And it's amazing to me when you've won how many freaking national titles and they don't have any receivers either, which is just unbelievable, especially if you look at the previous 40 years with those guys and all the talent they put in the NFL. I do think Florida State, though, I'm talking about them. I am very, very, very high on Florida State. Has Florida State proven it? No, they've actually had some flops, recently. They're supposed to always be really good. I don't know, Christian, man. I'm actually interested to hear your take here, but I will say this. I'm big on Vegas because I bet, and maybe a lot of you guys don't. I don't know. But Vegas has Bama at 10.5 wins this year. And I think that's a little high, personally. That's Caesar Sportsbook. I believe they're 1 or 2 over there is the biggest book. So Florida State, they have at like 9.5, which I am going to take the over on this year because if you really want to truly find out about, Christian, I've said this before, if somebody's just either just running their fucking mouth or if people really mean what they say, you'll put money where your mouth is. I say that a lot. I am going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to say that Florida State is going to have more than 9.5 wins this year. The big deal, though, here is Bama just I don't know what it is. Nick Saban's been crying a lot, Christian. You know this. You're an SEC guy. Bama is decaying, I think, in front of our eyes, personally. I truly do. Like, it's like since that game with you guys where they got beat a couple years ago and you guys won your first title, it's like Bama's on this fucking trip of, like, excuses now. And I didn't really ever see that coming out of that fan base and or Nick Saban. You know what I mean? And it's almost like he sees what's in front of him is like, man, I'm getting older. We're not as relevant as we were. And the guy that was my assistant is just kicking my ass, dude. You guys are, I love it. That's why I'm rooting for Georgia just to beat Alabama every fucking year. And everybody knows my story, or if I haven't told it, I'll tell it someday about why I don't like Nick Saban. It's not because he's won a bunch of national titles. It's just, Bama just doesn't look to me, Christian, last year, and we're not playing last year's ball, but I mean, look at it last year, dude. They gave up like 52 fucking points to LSU. They don't play any defense anymore, and that's amazing to me. You know what I mean? And they lost Jahmyr Gibbs, Will Anderson Jr., and Bryce Young. Those were their 3 best players last year by far. They're not back. Who's Bama? What's Bama got? I'll leave it at that. I mean, like, I want to hear your take on this, but like, I get a little fired up about this. Like, Bama's like talent-wise, like I know they have the top recruiting classes, but I haven't seen it. I didn't see it in the spring game at all. Their best player was a freshman running back.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said it exactly right. I mean, I don't think this is that hot of a take. Considering if you've watched our show, I believe Bama, you said it, dude, they're in for a rough year this year, considering how much they've lost on both sides of the ball, right? As FSU fans pointed out, I was a little hard on them. And I've started to now come around to the fact they might be a playoff team this year, right? They also pointed this out.
On board.
Yeah, they pointed this out, and they have a lot of good points. They return more production than just about any team in America.
Exactly.
Right? I believe their floor, so the worst case for them this year, 3-loss team. But that's the worst case for Florida State. I believe the floor for Bama this year is a 4-loss team due to them having, they're really young in certain positions. Like you said, they're really talented. But, hey, you saw Texas A&M signed the best recruiting class of all time last year. How'd that work out for them when they had to have those guys play? Almost a shit ton of them are transferred and playing at other schools, and a bunch more of them, they had flashes, but, I mean, it was just really up and down. So whenever you got to play that many young guys, man, that's tough. Then you throw in the fact, who's going to play quarterback for them? We've said it. You've got a running back playing quarterback and 2 guys that are struggling with accuracy at certain points, and receivers who have struggled to catch the ball. A lot
Which
of
is
their
just
good
amazing.
receivers. Yeah, a lot of their good receivers like JoJo Earl, some of the other guys, they've transferred out or gone on to the league. Bama's defense in certain games last year, they did look like trash, but they were a top 15 defense statistically last year, and they did play much better than what I think Tennessee and LSU game kind of show, right? To me, Chris, I look at it like this. They lost a ton on the defensive side of the ball, dude. Will Anderson, Henry To'oTo'o,
Yep.
I think both safeties.
Both safeties.
I mean, yeah, they've lost so much. They've got to replace a lot of it. I mean, you go back to the bowl game against Kansas State. Will Anderson and Bryce Young were both playing in that game. Why? Why?
No, you're not wrong. That's the thing, dude. It's like I guess with Bama, like it just weird for me to say it because they've dominated college football, for the last decade and a half. But it's like, and you hear these Bama fans talk, dude, and it's like they can't accept reality. Like you guys are, Nick Saban's falling apart right in front of us, dude. I've never seen somebody cry so goddamn much for a guy who's got 7 national titles, whatever the hell he's got. It's like, dude, Georgia's been kicking your guys' ass in the SEC the last 2 years. LSU is on the rise. I mean, it just amazes me. And then you can't you go from, they had Mac Jones, Tua, Jalen Hurts. I mean, we could just go back and rattle off the last couple quarterbacks that have just been stellar, right? I mean, amazing. Bryce Young, sorry, throw him in there too. Who do you got now? Tyler Buckner? A failed quarterback who couldn't barely play at Notre Dame? Really? I mean, Jalen Monroe or whatever the hell his name is, he looks like a trash can out there. I mean, that guy looks like a bodybuilder, but he can run. But, I mean, his problem is from, the waist up. I mean, the guy, I don't know if he can't – I don't even know what team I don't think he knows, if he's colorblind. I don't know, dude. They had more interceptions in the spring game, Christian, than they did completed passes between him and that Simpson kid. It's bad, bro. It's bad. It's really bad.
Losing that much on defense, dude, if they struggle to score, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
It is a wrap. I think in summary, I mean, this isn't a hot take, dude. I believe FSU is in a much better position this year
100%.
than Bama, and they have a more favorable schedule. To me, it just is one of those things where, again, dude, I think Bama's in for a really, really rough.
Would it surprise you if Bama wins? Would it surprise you, Chris? Here's a question for you. Would it surprise you if Bama only wins 8 games this year? Would you be actually surprised?
They only win 8 games? No.
Same.
I mean, to me, I think there's 2 conferences where you've got to come correct every game. That's the Big Ten and the SEC.
Yep.
I just see there's too many defenses or too many other teams that are improved. Hell, I even said it on here. And a lot of people were like, I don't know about that. Right? I said, I think Auburn can beat them this year, man.
I think Ole Miss has got a chance.
I think Ole Miss, LSU, Auburn. Yep. I mean, hell, there's 3 losses right there.
I really do.
Texas A&M plays them really close, too.
Yep. I believe they got Texas this year early, too, right?
Yeah, Texas.
If they lose that game against Texas, dude, which I hope they do, dude, all hell's going to break loose down in Tuscaloosa, dude. I guarantee, I promise you. That's an early game. What was that, week 2 or 3, whenever they play them right away? It's really early in the season, but I would. Nick Saban, dude, literally, he'll die right there on the sideline. I can't wait.
South Florida can beat them.
I don't know. Whoa. Maybe it's NCAA football 14, but I don't know, bro.
If you watch the channel, we're doing a South Florida Bulls.
It's awesome, dude.
Right now.
Yeah, you guys got to check out Christian's commentary, by the way, on that. It's fucking awesome. Guy sounds like a professional EA guy, doing a damn show. It's pretty awesome.
But I look like a professional hot dog eater, though, bro.
I fucking love it.
Well, Chris, you ready to jump into some more Nebraska talk here, man?
Yeah, I guess. Jesus Christ, these guys are hot tonight about it. I like this guy though. Children of Course said something about fuck Florida football, and I love it, man. I've never caught so much heat from a freaking delusional fan base. If I had to do a show like most delusional or stupidest fan bases, Florida's taking the cake this offseason. Wait, I take that back. Right behind the one and only Colorado fans, but I'll put them right up there. God damn, dude. Where's our boy Mr. Florida at, man?
Dude,
Where do you go?
I am waiting. I don't hate Florida fans either. Like that's a very big misconception. I don't hate Florida fans. Some of my best friends in this world are Florida fans. Jesus Christ. I'm telling you right now, I mean, it is just one of those things where I don't get it. How can you come on to a show and reasonably say, and we'll talk about this again, I hope he comes back so I can say this, but they were trying to flip an 8th grader and get him to recommit to come play quarterback for him this year. Lost out on him, and Ole Miss.
And Ole Miss stole him.
Yeah.
And Lane Kiffin was trolling him. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Dude, it's I'm we'll talk more about that on Friday, but yeah, geez, man, that's tough.
No, it's good. It's good though. It's good. Like I said, man, these Florida people, dude, they lit a fire under me, man. I didn't realize that like they're just that. Like it's almost like I can't even like relate to them at all or have like a normal conversation with them. It's like, holy shit. I mean, Graham Mertz for Heisman, who was a failed quarterback, got his coach fired at Wisconsin. Like, I mean, Jesus, really? You could have picked up a worse guy in the transfer portal, in my opinion. There was many other dudes. Spencer Sanders, there's some other guys out there they could have picked up other than Graham Mertz. Like I've seen plenty of Graham Mertz, Christian, in my time over here in the Big Ten with Wisconsin. And we're bragging about him like he's the next. Oh, yeah, that's right. Billy Napier said he's going to be like Tim Tebow. He gave him 15, the number. You hear about that?
Yeah, I did. Jeez, dude.
Christ. Really? Tim Tebow, who's probably like I hate to say it, but he's probably one of the top 10 best college football players ever. Like just as a leader and his stats and national champion. I mean, in his 4-year run, you're crowning Graham Mertz, Tim Tebow. Holy shit! What? Like I don't know. I don't know what kind of drugs you guys do down south, but man, it must be some good stuff down there in that Georgia Florida line down there, man.
Oh, it's I don't know. Hell, I don't even know if they know where they're at half the time. So, but Chris, heard a lot about, and Crypto King brings up a good point, Jeff Sims. I called it way back, before the spring. I said, Matt Rule really, really likes, he likes those kind of athletic quarterbacks that can run that RPO style.
Yep.
I like it. He reminds me of, PJ Walker, right? With the, with the Panthers.
Yeah, he played with the Panthers, yeah. And then he played XFL or whatever that league was, before that. He was like their MVP in that league. And then Matt Rule got him over, because obviously Baylor, all that whole tenure. Or not Baylor, but was it Temple? Where'd he come from?
Yeah.
Temple? Yeah.
Temple, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and to me, I look at it and I'm like, okay, that's who I kind of draw a comparison to him for. I thought he was just like a really dynamic athlete who's just going to happen to play quarterback or point guard for the offense here. But I saw him throw. When I saw him throw that spring game, man, he can throw it down the field.
Well, no, go ahead. No, I'm just saying, Christian. No, if you guys watched our preseason spring game that we did live, man, that was my biggest takeaway from the whole game, honestly. And I wasn't gonna try to bring it up much after that, but I know it's just a spring game. But there's a reason why they're still played though too. But no, Crypto, he looked great, dude. He showed me. I watched him play at Georgia Tech. Now Georgia Tech runs a lot of like old school option, wishbone type of offense. So they never threw the ball unless it was like 3rd and 30. But he proved to me, man, he threw some balls on the dime. I mean, on a fucking rope. Some of our receivers, he looked like he was in really good command of the offense. And then literally it was like 2 days later, Casey Thompson declares the hell out of here. So I think he kind of had an idea that, look, I'm not touching this guy. I will add this about Jeff Sims, though. I don't know if you guys have checked it out or follow football as much as I do or even Christian, but he's in the Heisman Trophy preseason debate. Jeff Sims is. So I expect a huge year out of him personally. I think is he a 5th-year senior, Christian? Or is he just an actual senior? I mean, he's been around a while. He's played a lot of football.
I think he's got a couple more years left yet.
Does he?
I think he's got.
Maybe I'm wrong there. That's terrible. I don't know that, but either way, man. I mean, I expect him. I guess overall to answer your guys' question. I really, truly do. I do. I think he's going to have a really good year this year. The bigger question mark for me, as far as I'm not worried about him running the football. I think we're going to run a lot of zone read type offense, RPO style, like Christian just mentioned. But if he can throw the ball, if he can complete 60% of his passes this year, and we can have a couple guys break out. I know we got Washington, out there at wide receiver. He's probably our veteran receiver. We have Xavier Betts coming from Bellevue West over here, or East, excuse me. A couple years ago, he's back with us, but like we need somebody to step up, to help him out. So that'll be the big thing. I mean, as far as throwing the football, if we can throw the ball and convert some, 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 7s this year, and he's accurate enough with it. I'm not saying he's got to be Casey Thompson and throw the deep ball. We don't have Trey Palmer anymore. That's my big question with him. If he can throw those balls, and hopefully we don't get ourselves in 3rd and 13 and 3rd and 15 like we did last year a lot. It seemed like, and then Trey Palmer and Casey bail us out. But that's where I'm like I said, that'll be my question mark. If he shows me that, and I think we're going to have to find out week 1. I know you guys all think Nebraska's going 10-2 this year or better. If we win that game against Minnesota and Jeff Sims looks like he can throw the ball and be competent with it and complete most of his passes, he'll be in that Heisman category because his rushing numbers are going to be pretty good this year. I truly think that, Christian. I really do. And as far as college landscape goes, I think he's going to be one of those quarterbacks that's kind of slept on, and we're going to be talking about him a lot midseason and end of the year.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Crypto says, who's going to be the star receiver for the Huskers? Give me a combination of one of 3 guys. And I don't know. I'm thinking either Washington, Coleman. You know who I like, man? I like that guy, Eric Gilbert, man, from Georgia.
You do.
No, he's a tight end.
Can he catch a football, though?
He can, dude. I'm telling you, he can catch a football.
Okay. I'm just a little worried, man. He dropped a couple in that spring game, and I know it's a spring game, and I know he's probably just getting acclimated with the offense, but no, was he? What was he? Was he a 4-star?
No, he was a 5-star. He was the best tight end in the country.
Jesus, right.
He came out.
Yeah. Was he like 6'7"? God, he's a monster. Human being.
He's a power forward playing tight end. Dude.
Right.
I kind of compare him to Kyle Pitts almost, like that kind of unicorn kind of guy that's a big-bodied guy that can run like a wide receiver.
Right.
So, to me, and we've talked about it like nauseam, man. I think that's the thing. I mean, the good thing is, and they're talking about here in the chat, is it's not just one good thing, right? It's you look at having 2 or 3 guys, you know what I mean, that can really pick up that slack and have good years. I mean, that is such a big thing. Gilbert, again, he's been great. I think you got to get him on the field. You got to let him play and let him eat. But that's the big thing, man. Matt Rule's one of those kind of guys, and I think he proved it with Anthony Grant this year and some of the other running backs like Gabe Urban, Ramir Johnson. Like, you got to be on the practice field, and you got to earn your spot. And I like that, man. He's not just going to hand it to you. And that, to me, is kind of when you look at like why Casey Thompson transferred. I know he was hurt. I know he was recovering from an injury. But I think it became very apparent very quickly, hey, Jeff Sims, the guy, he's been wowing us in practice. We saw what he did in the spring game. I think he fits what we're going to do this year.
Yeah. No, I agree. You answered the questions there. I mean, as far as Marcus Washington, I think will be probably the number 1. You guys remember him last year. He came from Texas with Casey over a couple years ago. I think he'll be the number 1 right away. But, yeah, we need Crawford, Dakotas to step up this year. He's highly talked about a lot. If he can step up, he's kind of our number 2. Can you create space? He's fast. So if he can, you guys know how the NFL and the college football works. You got to have a wide receiver to take the top off. You know what I mean? And if he can do that for us this year, it'll be open across the middle all day long. And that's where I think your boy Gilbert gets involved. That's because you can't miss that guy. I mean, we watched him in the spring game, Christian, and the guy looks like he's twice the size of anybody else out there. And that's including the defense. I mean, the guy's a monster of a man. So if he can get dialed in, he did drop a few passes, but if he can get it shored up and, also proved that he can block on offense because I think we're going to run the ball a lot this year. I really do. You guys know how much I love Gabe Urban this year. I'm a big Grant fan as well. Like, I think we're going to be fine on offense this year. I don't think that's where the question is going to lie with Nebraska personally. I really, truly don't. I think it's on the other side of the ball. You guys bring up who the hell the kicker is. I'm not exactly sure. I know we got Timmy back there. He played pretty well. I don't even know how to say his last name, Bleak Road or whatever. He looked good in the spring game. He made a few kicks, but I don't know. We got a few of them back there. It does need to improve from last year. It's definitely better than it was 2 years ago. I'm not even going to get into that. You guys watched enough Husker football to know how bad that was 2 years ago. We couldn't make a fucking PAT. But I think we're going to be all right there, though, too. I think special teams took a huge step forward last year. I think they even continue to do so. I'm big on special teams, man. It's a part of the game. We see too many games won and lost, especially in Nebraska here.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, they talk about, might actually have some blocking this year. I think to me, right, if you're a little concerned about the offensive line, you only have those concerns, right? Yep. But I think when you look at Matt Rule's style of offense, he's going to try to run the ball down your throat, try to just dink and dunk you down the field, pick and choose his shots, and he's going to force teams to have to, obviously you want to try to get pressure on them. And you got, obviously sack specialists or guys that can kind of come in like a Micah Parsons or whoever have you to kind of come off the edge and get after him. But I think Matt Rule, he is going to put a game plan that's going to keep teams guessing on the defensive side of the ball. Right. And actually on the defensive side of the ball, they're tackling, man. They're tackling. They look more physical. They've got better players out there. I think he's going to rotate it. And to me, it's just they didn't look lost in the spring game. They were actually wrapping up. They were closing in. They were swarming to the ball. They got after the quarterback. Not all the time, but they got after him enough. And to me, I like that because, last year, and that was a tough thing, dude. That was a very big thing. There was a lot of players, O'Shawn Mathis, Garrett Nelson, that they just weren't really hyped up, but I didn't really see him get to the quarterback all that much last year. I wanted to see more.
I think the word you want to use about the offense and even defense, honestly, I think we all talk about the black shirts, right? I don't even like saying that name because it doesn't resemble anything of what I've fucking seen back when I was a kid. It's an identity. I talked about this a couple weeks ago, especially on the offensive side of the ball. What is our identity? Matt Rule's going to have an identity. Christian said it perfectly. We're going to run the fucking football. That's what we're going to do. We're going to play smash mouth football. I hate using the word dink and dunk, but hey, I don't care. I don't care as long as it works because if you can run the football, you can't become one-dimensional. That has been our problem the last how many years. We really don't know Scott didn't know what the fuck he was doing on offense. He couldn't figure it out. 3rd and inches, we're running out of the shotgun and trying to throw a wide receiver screen. You know what I mean? Which just ate me alive as a fan. You ain't going to see that this year. Offense is going to be totally different. We're going to run the football. If we have to punt a couple times, fuck it. I don't care. At least we're taking time off the clock. We're not putting our defense back on the field, which is something that just drove me nuts about Scott. Our defense was on the field 70% of the game. I literally just looked up some stats just the other day on that because it's like every time I watch Nebraska, which is every freaking game, it's like, why the hell's defense out there all the time? You know what I mean? Like, is your offense that freaking anemic that it can't move the ball? There was a couple games last year. I think we had 6 first downs or less in a game, Christian. Think about that for a second. Pretty hard to win football games when you're not moving the chains. And it's a lot of it was because we didn't have an offensive line. A lot of it was because the I don't even know what word I want to use for the play calling last year between him and Whipple was, I'm pretty sure we could have took a blind person off the street, no offense to a blind person, and had them run plays. It was so bad. You remember that very vividly, Christian. We had some really deep talks last year doing some of those live games last year, and it was just like, I didn't even know what to say. You know what I mean?
The problem, too, with it is, they were switching off at, halftime. So, Scott would call plays for one half, and then Whipple would call plays the other half. And it's just like, what company operates that way? You know what I mean? Like, what successful Fortune 500 company do you know that has, a change of management halfway through the year, just for shits and giggles and rotates back and forth? It just doesn't happen. So,
right.
The thing is you got to be able to give up control and not just, superficial control.
Right.
It's one of those things where, to me, and I just said it last year before the season ever started with Whipple, You bring Mark Whipple in. Takes time. Everywhere he's been at. You go back to when he was with the Cleveland Browns. He was the head coach at UMass. Right? Then you took some time off. He ends up at Pitt. First 2 years, they were like 100th and 90th in total offense.
Right.
And offense really wasn't the problem last year. It was defense. But
yeah,
to me, I just think the real thing of it is in a make or break year, you bring in a new offensive coordinator and they're struggling for control. That's tough. The 2 years before that, the defense was fantastic. So I guess it makes sense because the offense struggled to score. I mean, how many times, if you guys probably could have averaged 30 points a game last year, how many games would you have won in that 3-9?
Shit. I don't know. Probably half of what we lost. You know what I mean? I mean, there were games, don't get me wrong though, and I will add this onto your statement, is that part of the reason why the defense sucked at times because the offense was so bad too. You know what I mean? Like you can't just the one thing, and I hate to say this, but this is your team, Georgia. I use them because they are the top of the fucking yardstick when it comes to great teams in college football right now. Their defense is obviously full of 5 stars and studs. I get it. But they also, your offense also, that's where Stetson Bennett has become this like fucking hero. You know what I mean? Stetson Bennett is not a world beater. He doesn't do anything that's just out of this world. But he did what he needed to do. You know, he handed the ball off. He threw the ball when he needed to. Completed the big passes when he needed to on 3rd and long. To keep your defense off the field at times, right? You guys had a tough game, if I'm not mistaken, Christian, against Missouri last year. You guys could have lost that game. You know, and if you watch the end of that game, and I've watched it, Stetson Bennett doesn't wow you with his athleticism, even though he's more athletic than we think we all thought he was. But he kept everybody in check. Leadership skills. Maybe that has to do with something that he's like a 10th year senior there. Still didn't graduate, by the way. I'll throw that out there. Just fucking with you. But no, you know what I mean? Kept you guys calm. He kept your defense off the field on that last drive. That's what I'm talking about. And that's what I'm trying to make a point here. It's like your offense has got to be able to at least keep the ball out of the other offense's hands and not keep your defense out there the entire time. Problem is Nebraska's defense was not very good last year. We had a lot of new guys rotating in and out anyway. They didn't have a lot of experience. We lost a lot off that defense 2 years ago to the NFL. And not a ton of guys in the NFL, but we just lost a lot of experience. Guys that had been playing in the system. And it was just tough last year, man. That was really hard. And you're right. If we would have scored 30 points or more last year, probably would have won 3 or 4 more games. But the problem is when you put your defense on the field against Georgia Southern the entire game, which part of that was our defense's problem. We gave up, 40 points, Christian, to those guys. But that game, our offense couldn't do anything in the fucking second half, especially in the fourth quarter. Defense was out there literally the entire fourth quarter and let them back into the game, and they end up coming, they end up winning the game. We tried to like a 50-yarder there at the end there, and then Scott's fired the next day, and thank God it actually happened, to be honest with you. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I was talking about, like I said, 2 years ago, not last year, if they could have scored. I mean, the 3-9 season.
Yeah, best 3-9 team ever. God, I'm so sick of hearing that. I can't even. I got a kid here that said something about that the other day, and I got pissed off. I'm like, look here. Your record is what it says it is. At the end of the day, you're 3-9. You want to go around bragging about 3-9, about the best 3-9 team ever? And there's some fans in this state too. There's some idiots, and I'm hard on them too. It's like, what are you doing? Like, I'm sorry, 3-9, 3-9, Christian, 3-9. Like, I don't even need to – I don't care how we lost. I know it was painful. We were in every ranked game against any ranked team. It doesn't matter. You guys didn't win the game. All that tells me is that you guys, Nebraska, doesn't know how to finish games. The other teams came home with a win, man, at the end of the day. And I'm not trying to piss anybody off from Nebraska, but I'm hard on a lot of other schools. I'm also very, 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 very hard on Nebraska people too, because I heard a lot of that, and I still hear that word thrown around wherever I go once in a while. Oh, we had the best 3-9 team ever, Chris. Are you fucking kidding me? I don't even know what to say. Like, I can't even carry on. I stop. I'm like, okay, I'm walking away. I can't carry on a conversation with somebody like that. You're talking about it's like getting like a 71 on your test in school, and I barely made it, but I made it though. Okay. You're still an idiot. I mean, sorry. It just doesn't make any sense to me, man.
Dude, I think what I'll say is this, and we'll kind of end it here. I think Nebraska is going to be a much more complete team this year. I think they'll put it together. I mean, again, dude, the way, and I've said this, and I'll continue to say it, if they can put it together and be halfway decent on defense this year, be what I think they're going to be on offense, I like them to win the Big Ten West this year. Really do.
You keep throwing that at me, man, and I get excited, and then I almost think deep down, Christian, you're saying it to set me up for disappointment.
I'm not saying it to set you up for disappointment. I'm just saying who in the hell else in the Big Ten West scares you? Wisconsin. Okay. They don't have a quarterback.
That's my thing there, though. That's my one team. I'm not worried about Iowa, and I shouldn't be. I'm worried about Wisconsin. I think they got a really good coach there. I really do. I think they got a great coach out of that whole deal. All that bullshit they went through last year. That's the one team that scares me in the West. It is them. You said it perfectly.
I think they're in a worse position than with Graham Mertz, dude, honestly.
Okay.
I'm not.
Well, really that's my point, though. Like, can Wisconsin get any worse because Graham Mertz ain't fucking playing there? You could have put you or me back there last year. They would have had more success. I mean, Graham Mertz was terrible. He's gone now. Thank God. I'm sure Wisconsin fans are sitting there. Thank Lord, Jesus. Like, thank you.
It's like Florida fans getting ready to figure out, hey, maybe Anthony Richardson wasn't all that bad. You know what I mean?
I'm so happy he's gone.
I'm just saying, you can absolutely always get worse. You know, it doesn't always get better.
Yeah,
it's like when you leave your job, you quit, you give them the middle finger, you know, and then you start doing other interviews and you start asking what the salary is, and they give you some long-winded bullshit answer. You're like, oh,
that's a good point.
Maybe I should have where I was at.
That's a good point. It's a good point, man. The only thing with Nebraska, I'll touch on it real quickly before we go here, guys, is that I hope you guys are right. I see a lot of 10-2 in the comments, like we talk about. You know, Christian's getting me all hyped up that we're winning this son of a bitch on this side. I hope you guys are right. I do. I've just seen so much failure on our end that I don't want to overshoot this thing. Like I said, I'll even be happy with 6 wins, to be honest with you. The more and more you guys are also hyping me up. I'm not down in the dumps. It's not that. It's just I want to see us get. I just want to see us be successful this year. It is a first-year head coach. It's a new system. If we can get off to a hot start, guys, get off. We are not losing to Colorado. I will name that week 2. That's not fucking happening. But the big one for me is the Minnesota game. If we can. It's a Big Ten, opponent. We play them every fucking year. They always play us tough, vice versa. So if we can get those 2 under our belt, then I see it, guys. I see it. It definitely could happen. Michigan's the only thing that probably really scares the hell out of us. But I mean, it's Michigan. We know that. If we lose to Michigan, I'm not worried about it. It's more, can we win those other games? Can we compete in those other games? Can we not do stupid shit like we always do, especially in the second half?
Corn says Chris still got a ball blocked into the bleachers by me in high school. And I guarantee you Corn was probably a freshman and you were like a 6-year senior.
Corn, leave your initials here in the leave your initials here in the old chat. I have a good idea now who you are. See if he does it.
You said it would be Michigan too.
Is it JK? He won't do it.
Give him a second, my God. Say they're going to win the.
Ooh.
They say Minnesota. You think that Minnesota? I mean, listen. I know Minnesota in past has been a tough game for you. I gotta think. Yeah.
Okay. I know who this is. Yeah. Okay.
I don't think Minnesota's all that. I don't think Minnesota's going to be all that great.
Well, no, but I mean, it's just a style of play. First game, dude. It's you know what I mean. Like, Chris, you've been around a while. It's like that Missouri game for Georgia last year. It was early in the season. It's not probably who you guys are, right? It's you know what I'm saying. That's my point. That's my point. Like, I just don't see how everybody's like, if we beat fucking Minnesota by 28, then I'm stoked. But my point is like, I just see it being a tough game right away. That's all I'm saying. I just do. First game of the season, it's a Big Ten opponent. Maybe I'm hyping it up too much. Maybe I'm in my own head about it. But I think it's going to be tougher than people think. I can't wait to see the line on that game. That'll actually be very, very interesting to me. And it's not, I'm not like Minnesota's a world beater. No, they lost Mo Ibrahim. He's not there. He's not getting 45 carries anymore. I get that. But it just seems like they play us tough. And it's like one of those, it's like your little brother. You know what I mean? You got a little brother, Christian. Kind of looks like you. You guys kind of do the same stuff. So,
bro, we do two different things, man. We do two different things. I'm more like, oh no, I forgot to get my tags registered, like a month ago. He's more like, yeah, I was driving. I'm not going to go into it, but you get where I'm going with that.
I do. I was hoping you'd finish.
Well, he probably shouldn't have done that on a drive-by. But anyways, we'll end it there. We'll catch you guys on Friday. We'll be back with another great show for you. Stay classy.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thank you, guys.